we've still got bad light at the moment. Hopefully it shouldn't be for too much longer. I had a missed call from the glazing repair guy who's gonna hopefully come round and it's really bad, the light. 1 second, let's see if I can, that makes it a little bit better. Right, I've disappeared totally. 1 second. So yeah, the glazing repair guy had replacements ordered. I don't understand why the light's so bad. It wasn't as bad as this yesterday. Well, you're going to have to make do with that, I think. I can't do any better. That's not the end of the world. My brightness on the screen wasn't down. I couldn't see. Was down. I couldn't see. Yeah. This live stream is to cheer me up. I'm putting on the live stream, and what my life has taught me in the recent months that have passed is it is really changing my approach to life in very many different ways. And where I'm alone, and where I'm a thinker, and where I've got a mental health disorder, and all of that, what it's taught me over the years is to be able to change my character, my ego, my outward personality to the world, alongside my internal recalibration process all the time. And last year, I don't know if you saw any of the start of the live streams. I used to have a go at the viewers a lot. I was used to really tell you off all the time, and that's been conditioned out of me by life and my mental health. And instead, what that's been replaced with recently is a much kinder outward personality to the world, much more polite. My emotional state has fallen apart so much that it really doesn't matter to hold to a true emotional tone within life, at least not within the context of my mental health at present. It's everything to try and do that, what I just said. So in other words, try and be true to emotions from my perspective. Sometimes you're not able if you have a mental health disorder, and I'm not able at the moment. And instead of behaving in a way that is close to my true emotional state, so in other words, really depressed, really low, really down, pissed off with everything and everyone. I understand at the moment the way to be. It could change. It probably almost will change, but for now it's the way I'm operating, and that is to be polite to individuals, to raise my voice when I can out of my own emotional turmoil. The reason is I've seen everybody else's pain, or at least through your silence, you've painted me a picture that you're also in pain. And I acknowledge that that's likely to be true. And for that reason, I don't need to put any more. In a way, it was like me asking for help by shouting at you, shouting at the viewers, telling you off. I was asking for help. And when the help didn't come, I looked at the picture and I looked at the picture. It took me a while, but I figured it out. You're all in pain too. As I said, I could be wrong. That's why I'm putting on the live stream, I think, because where I am at present, I'm trying to be courteous in front of others, beyond what makes sense. In other words, my spirituality and my understanding of humanity is the thing that's making me raise my own emotional state out of my circumstance, to be polite. And in that politeness, I receive something too. A little bit of lightness to the depression, a little bit of lightness to the density. Where I am at present is it's been knocking on the door for a few weeks now. Well, it's always knocking on the door. Depression to life. And it's my challenge, it's our challenge to get up each time and fight it. If you're going to fight, you have to do it with sanity and truth to yourself. In other words, depression is an ugly monster. And if you're lying to yourself, that monster's going to see that weakness in you and it's going to eat you. My approach to life is that if I'm honest with myself and I'm constantly trying to fight back against that monster, that's basically the simplicity of all the complexity that goes into war. That's my war plan. Be honest with myself and continue to do my best every day. And it's really been knocking at the door the past few weeks. And kind of won a few days ago. I looked at my life and I realized I can't carry on. Right now, what's causing the depression wants too much. In other words, I saw that if I just carry on and allow this mystical injustice to keep happening to my life, because that's how you would view it from the perspective of someone without a mental health disorder, my life is going to get a lot harder and a lot quicker. I can't ignore the injustices happening to me at this point. You know, it's like you're taking too much from me. If I carry on down this road, there's nothing. There's just worse situations ahead. And I said, right, I have to stop here. I have to call it here. Depression's got the better of me. Life, I can't fight the cause, which is life, anymore with the madness that's taking place. And I tried to put a band-aid on it, a plaster on it a few days ago, and I got on with life for 2-3 days, and reflected on that decision. It was like, no, it's just, it's not it. Whatever's taking place at the moment, I have to call it now. The original decision was best. I have to call it now. This is the point where life has got the better of me. And now, I surrender to the depression. And I allow myself to behave in terms of the depression. So before, I was fighting life, so my life wouldn't be depressed, so I wouldn't be depressed. If you're honest to what you're experiencing of life, and life is too much for your ability as a human being to do anything to realistically make a change, sometimes submitting to the ugly monster that is depression saves a worse fate against other ugly monsters. And that's what I've had to do. So I've not long been out of bed today. I don't want to be here at all. I don't want to be in this place. It's a stagnant energy. There's no life, there's no movement. Nothing makes sense. There's no way forward. It's like, imagine your future, and in this place, it's like, you want to be away from this, because in this place you can't see anything but bad things happening in terms of being realistic to life. But as I said, if I'd have continued down the other path looked a lot worse. So I'm having to just calm the shock, so to speak, accept that this is where I am, and just pray for a resolution. In terms of authority, I've realised this war that's taking place now, Ukraine, Russia, is my first war as a human being. The reason is because I'm 36 now. I'm 36, and my dad passed away 3 years ago, I think. 3 years ago next month. And my dad, he was a very clever man, very, very smart. And I look at him as an almost certain reincarnation of Chuang Tzu. Chuang Tzu wrote The Art of War. And that's my dad. If you can imagine somebody that embodies that energy in the way they go about life, and they're a happy person, they're a sad person, they're an angry person, they're a happy person. They're all the things that a normal person is. But if you can imagine the art of war being an embodiment within a human being, that's my dad. It's like, my dad was always 10 steps ahead. And he wasn't afraid to bite. He wasn't afraid to show his teeth. He wasn't afraid to tell you off. That was my dad's family. He came from a hard family. My granddad was a monster compared to my dad. And my dad had that as a role model growing up. And he had my two uncles there that he was essentially a father to, from my understanding, from a very young age. And I could never rise to the challenge of overcoming that authority figure that was my father. How you gonna beat Chung Tzu, the art of war, the master of war? And I accept it, you know. That wasn't my nature. I'm all about peace. My dad was all about, well, it's as if my dad was all about war from that perspective. I've only got 10% battery left on my phone and my charger's on the other side of the room. I'm not going to move it. So it might cut off abruptly and that will be the end of the live stream. We'll see how long it lasts and if it can be wrapped up before that. And essentially, when you've got a Chung Tzu as your father, you know, that's how I viewed my dad. There's been many great warriors, many great generals that have inhabited the earth, and I'm sure a lot of people view their father, their mother, as in that way, you know, whether it's true or not. But what that does, the way I went about life was a case of, fine, you have this energy, you have this approach to life, and that's you. Fine. I know you love me and I trust you on that level. I never worried about war. My dad, in the back of my mind, it was somehow my dad always took care of it. And my dad's not here at the moment. And I'm responsible for myself now. And I'm thinking about my survival, my life. And I'm having to listen for the first time. Because whenever wars were taking place, I just ignored them. News I just didn't need to know. But he's not here. And now it makes sense on a very fundamental level to know. So I'm experiencing this war like the first time somebody experiences a war in the outside world. Thank God it's in a different country. I say thank God. But how can I really say that when the people of Ukraine are suffering as they're suffering? It's a bit selfish. But I can't also deny the truthfulness of my weakness as a human being. And in that place, it is a case of, thank God, unfortunately, that it's not happening to me here, in my little area and part of the world. So it's troubled me quite a bit, these events taking place. And you know, I've been speaking on the live streams of late, like, this is the first war that's been taking place and it's this and it's that, but it's not. Wars have been happening all the time. Russia's been aggressive for years and wars have happened in Europe, like injustices and If it's not in Europe, it's just on the borders of Europe. And I acknowledge that it's been happening all along, and I've just not been a witness to it. And as I was getting ready today, the need within me to just shed tears for my first war, for the first realization within my life, because I was reflecting on war the year before, and what, not specifically war, I was just reflecting on the suffering of humanity, the suffering in the world. And unfortunately, war is one of the most obviously unpleasant experiences a human being can go through, especially if they lose loved ones, their home, their possessions, their survival, their grounding in this world. Their future's just blown to bits, you know, they don't know what their future's going to be like. And that's if they're an adult. What happens if they're a teenager, or even younger, a child, and they're going through that? Losing your whole family. And you've got to, all of a sudden, take care of everything yourself. And I'm witnessing it now, live, that it's taking place. And for the first time in my life, I know what I'm witnessing to the extent, not even to the extent, but somewhere in that direction, of what the real injustice is in terms of humanity that's taking place right now. And what some people are having to go through. And there was an overwhelming feeling to cry. But that's my schizophrenia, that's where I'm compartmentalized, that's where my personality is a bit shattered, because on a personal level, the tears dried up years ago. But if you're human, you'll cry. If you're human, this war is asking us to shed tears for ourselves as a self within the collective. And it's asking us to shed tears as a part of the collective. And that's all I've got to share. We're on the edge of entering into a new phase of our humanity in our evolution, entering the Piscean age. And in terms of spirituality, from what I know, it would half make sense that there'd be a lot of turmoil as the old is cleansed and the new enters. But when we ask ourselves, what can we do about our collective injustice, our collective suffering, our collective pain, because it is pain on all levels. The Russians must be in pain. Putin, he must be more fucked up than everybody to be doing this right now. And the same with any other party that's gone to war in the same vein. In the past. And it's almost asking us to find the solution from a different angle in my eyes. We're not looking at the picture correctly, I don't believe. We're still looking at it from the perspective of the past. And from that perspective, it's an injustice and the same thing that's happened before. Time immemorial, is that the saying? Time and time again. It's just going to take place again. But we're a connected collective with the powers of modern technology at the very least. We're a more enlightened collective with the energies coming through for our future and present, the Piscean age. And we're also a wiser beast in terms of knowing the wars of the past and how to navigate and how to instigate, control, if that's what we are trying to do in terms of the oppressors at the moment, Russia, better than ever. Now, I don't know solutions, but it's a case of when life is at risk and an almost inevitable win by the oppressor might not, but you know, if we go to war, and even if Ukraine somehow pull off a massive surprise victory and retain Ukraine's independence, it's not a victory. It's a defeat. It's a defeat for the Ukraine and it's a defeat for Russia as well. People are going to perish in a war. Lives are going to be ruined in a war. And I think that's where we've got to look at it. You know, I'm struggling to understand why the West, NATO, the UN, the EU are saying, yeah, we're behind the Ukraine. We're going to back you. We're going to send you military supplies. We're going to send you this supplies. We're going to give you these resources. We're going to sanction Russia. You're sanctioning the Russian people. And unfortunately, the media in Russia, the media all over the world, I don't know which country has a real free media, an impartial media, tells the people what the people in power want to hear. So you can't blame the Russian people, and it's the Russian people that are going to suffer the sanctions ultimately. And I'm just waiting for all the power the EU, the UN have, NATO have, start thinking out of the box. Start thinking, yeah, we've got to sort the problem out. And by doing that, it's a simple message to the Ukrainian people. Surrender in terms of what the oppressor wants. They want to say they control the land. And then, through means that the oppressor is still locked in to the same world, voting, trade, locale. So in terms of Ukraine, it's not in Russia. There's a gap between Ukraine and Russia. I'm sure there will be a military presence in the Ukraine, but you're not dealing with the military. You're dealing with that bit of land, labelled Ukraine at the moment. Who knows what Putin wants to call it? Be like the wise Indian sages and gurus that when Alexander the Great rocked up and he said, I'm here to invade, and they turned around to him and said, okay, well, does that mean you're going to kill me? And they said, no. You're going to fight me? And the guru said, no, of course not. He said, well, I'm not going to kill you then. I'm just going to kill whoever fights me. He said, all right. So can I live my life? And he goes, yeah. And then the guru asked, all right, so I can live my life, and when my life is over, can I be buried here? And Alexander the Great said, yeah. And the guru said, well, what's the problem? Take it. But in this world, the world still functions in a certain way. In this world, what was Czechoslovakia, what was the Czech Republic, what is now, for hopefully, well, we don't know for how long, the Ukraine, the Ukraine. It will go through another evolution. Let him take it in a way that confuses him. He wants to take it with control and power. What happens if the Ukrainian people said, look, take it, man, come in, put your flag up, give us a vote. Come in, put your flag up, give us a chance to live. You don't want to harm the people like you said. And then steer it back to your own independence and freedom. Sure, you as a collective 40-odd million people, I found out it's apparently the second, one of the largest countries in Europe or something, Ukraine, surprisingly. Fight as a collective people on a different level where life isn't at stake, destruction isn't at stake, and take back your independence in 5 or 10 years if that's how long it takes. And keep that spirit within you through that fight. And don't resort to the level that the oppressor wants you to come to. Because you're not going to win on that level. Nobody is. If you do, like we said, you lose. And so do the Russians. We don't want to create another rebel nation, isolate them, and let them become and brew in their pain and suffering, and then come out in another 20, 30 years and do another injustice and God knows what. We've done this so many times, man. It's unbelievable that we've got massive, massive international agencies, the United Nations, the European Union, NATO, massive countries all trying to get around the table and figure out ideas with countless experiences of the past of the same fucking thing. We sanction you, you go internal, you have to find your own resources, you get pissed off, you're always going to be fighting us on some level, you know, you're always going to be anti-West. The people in your country are going to suffer when they're not really at fault. And, you know, every 30 years we have another atrocity from that specific area. You know, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, that area of the world. How many countless times is it the same thing? I don't know a lot about politics. As I said, this is my first real war. But the bits I've heard, it's all the fucking same. We need a new approach. We need to show them that with war, you're never fighting the people. That's always the mindset. And the people don't pick up guns. They don't pick up and start flying aeroplanes and tanks and support a war that's you're never going to win. The people fight with spirit through the means that they can fight in terms of this world. And it's a scary thing when you've got a big country